You see, the reason I knew this off of the top of my head is because of
The tweet, right?
Yeah, the
Casey
Blake
Anthony is a
Griffin tweet.
monster. Yeah.
The what tweet? Hello? Huh?
Blake Griffin, maybe the funniest basketball players of all time, said, I ran over a squirrel last week, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm losing sleep. Casey Anthony is a monster.
Damn.
Yeah.
Honestly, I suppose that is perfectly true. That is definitely perfectly true, right?
Yeah.
Kind of hard not to say that, you know. I was
Yeah.
definitely taking the strong stance that Casey Anthony is not good.
I
The
think that's
strongest
probably
stance.
the strongest stance that you can take as an NBA player without
I
getting
can go
murdered
on a
for
limb,
it.
and I'm gonna say that this person, Casey Anthony, not a good person. I don't care what happens to me.
Cancel me if you want. I don't care.
Yeah, fire me. All right. So what? Yeah, I think the person who did that bad thing is bad, and I'm not afraid to say it.
I'm just
Don't even
saying.
get me started on John Wayne Casey. Poof.
I'm just saying what everybody's thinking.
And what I think is that this person is no good. See, but now imagine if you post that tweet and then somebody actually confronts him, like, "Hey man, you can't be saying that about Casey. Hey man, you gotta knock it off."
You're being I'm a little misogynistic there.
I don't think it would be that. It'd be like, "Hey man, I'm just like a big fan. I don't think you should be saying that." It's like you should stick
They
to
would
what
twist it that way.
you should stick to basketball, bro. You stay in your own lane.
Get up and dribble, Blake Griffin.
That wasn't fun. That wasn't funny. But what was funny is I just thought of Lake Griffin, and I don't know why I laughed at that. I feel kind of stupid about laughing at that.
You have to what?
Blake Griffin. It sounds like Peter Griffin. That's why I think it's funny.
Oh yeah.
No,
Okay.
I just laughed because I thought
No,
he
that's
said
why I
Lake
think it's
Griffin.
Oh, like a body of water.
Yeah, it was not justifiable to laugh at, but I was like Lake Griffin, and then that was my thought process. Uh, yeah, but sometimes bodies of water are just funny. We've all been there. What's your favorite body of water, John?
Ah, ah, it's a big one. Uh, but I gotta go with the Gulf of
Most tend to
Mexico.
be. The
I
one.
gotta go with the Gulf of Mexico. You know, I mean,
Oh.
I'm like a, it's kind of like when you grow up and you root for the hometown sports team. Like, I'm a solid 4 to 5 minute drive away from the Gulf. You know, water's
Mhm.
not great. Maybe just around my park because I'm near the BP oil spill and they never, but like, uh, water's not great. There may be flesh eating amoeba somewhere in the water. It doesn't really get better as you go down the coastline. There are areas where it kind of clears up, but for the most part, it's just kind of poopy, bluish brown water. But I have seen many a critter emerge from those those waves, and there are many a island that I have visited within the Gulf.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ah.
and I don't know. I just love it. I love it. So
Did you know
what
that
is your favorite then, Cake?
well, first of all, do you know that the term carbon footprint was invented by BP oil to cover the spill?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was because after all the ecological damage they did as a company, they wanted to try and pin the blame on local people. So they hired two marketers to come up with a term to pin the blame on the average human citizen instead of the massive corporation. So they come up with the term global footprint or carbon footprint rather, and they published it everywhere. And it's become common nomenclature when in reality it's just a marketing scheme to make people forget about the oil spill. Anyway,
I see.
Hmm.
uh, just thought the Scramcast listeners would like to know that. Welcome to Scramble Bunkhouse Deathcast, by the way.
Oh yeah,
My
welcome to the
favorite
Scramble
my
Bunkhouse.
favorite bottle my favorite body of water though, uh I would have to go with the Bermuda Triangle, if I'm honest with you.
Hmm.
I've never been to the Bermuda Triangle. If I was, I probably wouldn't be here to tell you about it. But I think it's got a good aura about it. Not necessarily well, it has a negative aura, actually, technically
Yeah,
speaking.
I
But
was gonna
like
say.
hearing the tales about it, you grow up all the time. You grow up worrying about like three things in life, like dynamite, quicksand, and the Bermuda Triangle, all of which you'll encounter in your own life someday.
Yeah.
And just growing up hearing all these tales about the Bermuda Triangle and all the wacky hijinks that have happened in it. It was pretty cool. So I guess I just got some nostalgia for that. What's your favorite body of water, Ethan?
All right, if I wanted to go the nostalgic route and with John, I would have to say the Hudson River, but I really don't want to
Mm.
because I feel like the Hudson River has seen better days, less human body or dead human body dumped in it days. But I haven't seen them, so I'm just not going to pick it. The one I have seen that I think is the most fun is the Chesapeake Bay. There are a lot of good
Oh,
crabs there.
Ooh.
It's very, very pretty. It's I've been to God, it's like the Marylandish part, so not like the full, Richmond part of or like near Richmond, Virginia, Chesapeake Bay, like real deep area. But I have had the crabs from the Baltimore area. They are very good, even though I'm not a seafood person myself, very
I guess
much.
that is the advantage that you guys have on me is that you can, in fact, say you've been to your body of water. I just haven't been on the river that much growing up, as I was kind of scarce for options. So I would
Yeah,
like to
That's
say
very
I
true.
can, I just didn't have a lot of options. I wasn't a water guy growing up, I'm afraid. I wish I was.
I was gonna say you were like landlocked, right? You had nothing
I
going on
was
there.
I was
Like,
fully landlocked. I
maybe
mean,
a smaller body of water or two, but you
we
weren't
had
hitting
the we had
weren't
the
hitting
we
the
had
big
the we
ones.
had the we had the Rio Grande. Everybody knows the Rio Grande.
That's true.
But the Rio
Yes.
Grande sucks. It's muddy and it's murky and it's disgusting, in my opinion. I do not like the Rio Grande. I'm glad that we have it, I guess, as like a sense of notoriety. But the actual water content of the Rio Grande leaves a lot to be desired. I personally have never seen an animal in it, and I don't know what that says about it. It is this big old river, and I have never seen one living creature in the entire river.
That's yeah, that's a slight bit worrying. I mean, it's
And maybe they just like camouflage themselves well. Maybe they're well hidden and they've like grown to love the mud and the murk and whatever, and I just can't see them
yeah,
anymore,
yeah. Maybe it's just
which is possible.
Rio Grande is just has an incredible population of mud crabs.
They could, or just mud fish, or just mud anything. Whatever can survive brown water resides in the Rio Grande. And that's the truth. That's
That
the
is the
facts of
truth.
the matter. The other
You know what
fact of the
else is the
matter,
facts of the matter?
well, I'll tell you what the fact of the matter is actually, because I have an important announcement for the Scramcast listeners that I think they need to hear.
Oh,
Yes.
This is important. As the Scramcast Nation is well aware, we have been slowly undergoing a transition to a true crime podcast.
Mm-hmm.
For those in the know, this started at episode 17 when Armani's video did not get a billion jillion views. So we had no choice but to begin the slow integration of true crime into our podcasting. We followed that up on episode 18. We brought in true crime expert Tracy to give us his expert opinion. We
Very
didn't know what to
expert
do with
opinion.
yes, we did not know what to do with his opinion at the time because we were
yeah.
still
I'm
figuring out
not
how
sure if
we
we
could
really should have
integrate
brought.
it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we really should have brought him in to begin with. That's the
But,
point.
but, 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 while we were figuring out what we could do about this, we did go back to our roots. We talked about Megumi Fuji, the good old pro wrestling that we all know and love. But eagle-eared Scramcast listeners would have noticed that Megumi Fuji were commonly known for real fighting, true fighting, if you will. This was us subliminally preparing to integrate ourselves into the true crime nation by discussing a more commonly known MMA fighter under the veil of professional wrestling. And we let that breathe for a second. We did a Q&A after that just to cover some more ground. But episode 21 after that, where do we go but shoot icon capture? And as you can see, Scramcast Nation, we've been inching closer and closer and closer to real fighting and real discussion of real things. This will all ultimately culminate, as we've said, into true crime, and we are planning on discussing serial killers very soon. But first, we have reached the apex of the slow, steady, arduous journey, and we are discussing a real fight today. We're discussing
Yes.
kickboxing, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
We
The
are
kickboxing
discussing
match, if
kickboxing.
you will.
Yeah, the match, and I will piggyback off of what Cake is saying. That is very true. We have been trying to kind of it's like the frog in the frying pan. We're
Yeah,
we're
it's a slow
we're
burn. We've been
slowly
slowly
turning
burning
the
you
heat up
guys
more
into
and
this.
more. If we jump straight to true crime, you're gonna jump out of the frying pan. We've lost you, and we don't want to lose any of you. We love our listeners, love you to death. In fact, we don't want to lose any of you. We only want to bring in more and more to this little fun little organization, this little family we've been putting together.
Exactly.
So we've been inching you closer and closer. But as we are getting closer, the more enthusiastic Scramcasters, the Scrammers, if you will, if you want to leave in the comments what serial killer we should talk about next, we'll be taking a poll soon. I've heard that John Wayne Gacy is a good campaign, but
We've
I
been
don't
talking
know
about
much
Casey
about that.
Anthony. I mean, we
We've been
could
talking
certainly
about
go into
Casey
that.
Anthony.
We could certainly do that. Like I said, that's the end goal. True crime is and will always be the end goal because you guys did not give Armani the views that he deserves. So this is your fault. We have to
Yes.
elaborate
Exactly.
on that. This is on you guys, not us.
Yes.
We just have to follow through on our promises because we're men of our word.
Yes.
So
But
that is the
of course,
end goal.
yeah, and that is the future. And it's important to acknowledge the future, be aware of the future, be ready for the future, always be ready for the future. But we do have to concentrate on the now. So, Ethan MacPillars, what can you tell us about the match 2022, Takeru versus Tenshin Nasukawa?
All right. So thank you for explaining the true crime bend that we're going to take to our podcast. I think it's best we start off with the Casey Anthony types who only killed a couple people, and then we build our way
Of
up.
course.
Of course,
Yeah.
Logic.
Ease them in with a little bit of murder.
And then we go all the way up to the what was that
The
game
big
called?
guns.
The Plague Inc. style.
Like ink. Yeah. We discussed the Black Plague as the
Yeah.
big climax.
Whole podcast on a singular rap.
The one rat. That evil critter. But yeah, that's like I said, that's in the future, Ethan.
Yes.
Please, by all means.
We're not talking about just one evil critter today. We're talking about at least two evil critters. These two men are, as we've mentioned, two. Well, we haven't mentioned this yet, but these are the two best, or at this point in time, these were the two of the best kickboxers in the entire world. Sorry, I'm just pulling up their names again so I don't mispronounce them. Tenshin Nasukawa is the younger of the two by 7 years. His nickname is the Prodigy. He was born in Matsudo in the Chiba prefecture of Japan, and his opponent is Takeru Sagawa. His nickname is the Natural Born Crusher, which I think is one of the coolest nicknames I've ever heard.
It is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He is from Yonago, the Tottori prefecture, and we will get into this in a little bit, but he, just so you have a little bit of background, he will be the heel in our equation today.
Dude, oh, great.
Most certainly.
Great way to start. Yeah.
He's 30 years old, but funnily enough...
Also important note, I do want to add, professionally, he's just Takeru. Full name is Takeru
Yeah, professionally,
Sagawa,
he's
but
Takeru.
we're just going to call him Takeru. I'm probably going to call Tenshin Nasukawa because I don't know this guy. But just because I'm calling Takeru Sagawa Takeru, that does not mean that I do know him. I sadly don't.
Very writing teacher of you.
Yeah, it's very writing teacher.
I could tell that your middle school teacher said, like, you're not their friend, but what you wrote about
yeah,
people.
dude, I failed a paper because of that one time, but now it's ingrained in me.
Yeah, it happened to me too.
All right, so here are some more interesting things about these two men's backgrounds. Takeru Sagawa, or Takeru, he is 1 inch taller than Nasukawa, but they're about the same weight. Takeru is the king of K1. He is the first guy to hold 3 belts in that organization, and the only guy to hold 3 belts in that organization. He was the super featherweight champion, and super bantamweight champion. I don't know the difference between regular and super for championships. I guess it's just you're more awesome if you win the super championship or whatever. I am not very well versed in K1, so please excuse me if I get anything wrong. But he's one of the best in the world. He doesn't have a lot of like amateur kickboxing experience, but his opponent, Kenshin Nasukawa, he is the kickboxing wunderkind. He's been fighting since he was, I think, like 12 years old. He has an amateur boxing record or amateur kickboxing record of 99, 5, and 3. And this was all up until the year 2015. And since he was born in 1998, that means it was up until he was 17 years old. That's when he started training, or that's when he started kickboxing professionally. And after he got a few really good wins under his belt, he challenged Takeru to the biggest fight in kickboxing. That was all the way back in like 2015. These two have been trying to fight one another ever since. And this match happened in, may I remind you, 2022. So these two were trying to fight each other for years on years on years on years. The reason they couldn't is because Nasukawa is a Rise guy. He is like the wonder child who competes mostly in the kickboxing organization Rise, while Takeru, he's the GOAT of K1. The problem with Rise and K1 is that they kind of fucking hate each other. Like all martial arts in Japan, there are competing organizations who refuse to work with each other. Most obviously, in our cases, All Japan and New Japan. But now we're talking about Rise and K1, who are pretty much in like the same boat, who just, I would rather the entire sport of kickboxing die than work with you. And that's kind of what's happened over the years. Kickboxing is nowhere near as big as it used to be in like the 90s, obviously because there aren't like stars like Andy Hug around who didn't go over to MMA. People like Israel Adesanya or Mirko Krokop decided to take their talents over to MMA because it was both more lucrative and there was more of an opportunity to fight against way more people because these promotions are so insular. And kickboxing was kind of dead for a long, long time until this fight came around. They had already scheduled it in 2021, but for a lot of different reasons, including the fact that the K1 owner might or might not have ties with the Yakuza, and Fuji TV didn't want to be associated with the broadcast because of that. But yeah, this fight happened in 2022 in the Tokyo Dome. And before we say anything about this fight, I will say it is the most financially successful MMA event of all time. Or not even MMA event, combat sports event. The gate at the Tokyo Dome was equivalent to 25 million American dollars, which is higher than even the highest gate in UFC history. So yeah, these guys pulled in a lot of money. And I think probably the most impressive thing about it is that there were, and this is lower than the highest amount of UFC pay-per-view buys, but it's impressive as all hell because it's kickboxing, and specifically these two fighters are so localized in Japan, but this became such a phenomenon that 500,000 people bought streams to it. And this is in the modern era where you can go on like so many different sites and find a free stream of it. So like the fact that 500,000 people bought it in 2022 is like unprecedented, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And for a while it kind of revitalized interest in kickboxing, and it could have started a whole new revolution, but I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I will quickly jump in and add a little bit of more information just from my memories leading up to the fight. Because admittedly, first time I saw this fight was today, watching with the boys. I never watched it when it happened. I saw clips of the fight as it was happening, but I wasn't watching it live. I remember the build. Like I'm not super engaged in kickboxing. Like I'm barely engaged in MMA, and kickboxing has gained like it has lost popularity over the years. So it's even harder to find information directly. But this was like a big deal. And there are a few things I remember specifically. There's a story from 2017 that I have to bring up because it involves somebody who we've probably mentioned on the podcast before. We've never talked about like full on because we haven't covered one of his matches. Nobuhiko Takada. He is an executive for Ryzen, which is of course an MMA promotion. It is actually partners with K1.
Oh,
So Ryzen, if I remember no, actually, excuse me. They were partners with K1. I was about to continue this, but I had to quickly make sure as I was talking that I'm wrong. They became partners with K1 in 2015. In 2016, Ryzen and K1 end their partnership. And this is while Nasukawa was signed to fight for Ryzen. They ended before that happened. So theoretically, they were about to make a lot of money, and then they chose to stop working together and not make a bunch of money. When you deal with companies like this and a lot of money is lost over something like that, there's probably an issue backstage. There's an issue going on between the two companies. They wouldn't sacrifice that fucking that bank. They wouldn't. So K1 and Nasukawa have some fucking issues. Or K1 and Ryzen, excuse me, have some issues. Nobuhiko Takada is an executive of Ryzen. He's been there from the beginning. I believe he's kind of one of their talking heads because everyone in Japan, like if you love MMA in Japan, you love Nobuhiko Takada. Even if everyone there kind of knows he's a hack and he's actually an awful MMA fighter and he's never won a single fight that was fairly fought, like he has like 3 MMA wins that you could say are on record. One is against Alexander Otsuka. It is flat out a pro wrestling match. Like Boss Root is on commentary laughing at it because it is so obviously fake. He has a match against Mark Coleman, which people kind of had a suspicion at the time because it was a little obvious, but Mark Coleman himself confirmed that he was given extra money to throw the fight, like thousands upon thousands of dollars to just take the fall. And then finally, Takada beat this one fucking dude who just materialized. Just this random American, never had another MMA fight, but inexplicably appeared in Pride just to lose to Takada. Like, I don't even know if there's any proof that he was an actual MMA fighter. He may have just been a guy training at a gym who was given a pay, like, who they just pulled out and said, hey, you should fight Takada. We'll give you like $20,000. And he basically just existed to get like beaten by Takada. But
rules.
Takada is still loved because he kind of revolutionized mixed martial arts in Japan. Like you can't have Pride without Takada. You can't have a lot of shit without Takada. So
I
he's
think
considered, like,
Takada's
got the
also
following.
he's also the reason that so much Japanese MMA, not so much as in like a majority of Japanese MMA, but so much as in more than there are in the US because of like restrictions. That's why I think freak show fights are so big.
Yes.
Not just freak show fights, not in just like this one person's freaky. It's like one person is way larger than the other and one person has more experience than the other. There's so many different examples of that in JMMA's history. Bob Sapp is a huge example of that. Hongman Choi, most of Minowa Man's fights, especially in Dream, and I think Takada's like at least partially responsible for that.
No, I'd agree. I think a lot of the more showy parts of JMMA can be sourced to Takada. A lot of the big a lot of the big interpromotional rivalry type shit could be sourced to Takada. And I'm not saying that because of New Japan UWFI, which probably had some level of contribution. I'm also saying that because of the basis of Pride was Takada and the U style going against the Gracies. But Takada is an executive of Ryzen, and at some point in 2017, just spurred on by seeing, like, I don't know, maybe he watched like a compilation of Tenshin clips and then watched a compilation of Takeru clips, and it was like, wow, these guys are so awesome, and they've been trying to fight for years now, and nobody's letting them. I'm gonna tweet about it. So he puts out a tweet, and the tweet reads, and this is a rough translation: two of the biggest superstars of kickboxing, Takeru versus Tenshin Nasukawa, should be made right now. If this super fight will not happen due to the Cold War, it is a heinous crime. Let's make this make miracle. A few hours later, the K1 broadcast, because there was a K1 broadcast going on like live as that came out, they crack a joke about Takada tweeting that like live on air. A few days later, Takada deletes all of his tweets about Nasukawa and Takeru facing off makes a public apology for tweeting it out, and promises that he will never talk about a fighter from another organization ever again because he has caused a fucking firestorm with just those tweets. Like, that is, and I think that's a good display of like just how weirdly heated a lot of these martial arts promotions are, like, against each other. That they are so, like, just a passing tweet about, oh, this is like the top champion of this fighting fed, and this is top champion of this fighting fed. They should face off because they've been trying to for a while. Maybe mentioning Cold War was a bad call from Takada, but like, it fucking everybody knows it exists. Like, it's not a
It's
secret.
literally called the kickboxing Cold War in a lot of circles.
Yeah, like, it's everyone knows it's a thing, but they still made him publicly apologize and promise to like not talk about K1 or Rise anymore. So yeah, it's a big deal going into this. I will also say though that if you like the more recent developments since this fight has happened, there's been an attempt at trying to mend bridges. I believe, because I just found something reading about it, I don't know what the state of it is now. K1 and Rise do have an agreement. They created an agreement in the middle of 2023 to work together more often. So they theoretically have a co-promotion agreement. I don't know if that has led to anything. I don't know if it will lead to anything. But apparently they're putting into paper that they're going to try and play nice. So that's really all I have to say before we get into the fight. Just tacking it onto Ethan's thing because I love the Takada story. And I do think that even with all the shit that's going on, and Ethan's going to go more deep into like how bad it's getting for kickboxing as a whole, there is still a small sliver of hope that is being grown with these companies potentially mending bridges just to save the fucking industry.
If they save the industry, I feel like I'm just gonna talk about it now because I'm in the my brain is in that mode, but we will talk about this fight eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking at the Casey Anthony Wikipedia.
Getting prepared for
Oh,
next
bad.
episode.
Yeah. I had it on a separate tab and I just looked at it for a second and then I heard like a little silence. It's like, I should say something, but I've been looking at the Casey Anthony Wikipedia this whole time. I don't know what I should say.
Ethan, you go on ahead.
I think my thing is that I think if kickboxing really wanted to take advantage of this or the kickboxing promotions, 2022 to now is like your perfect window to become mainstream once more. Because the MMA that's being produced by the UFC, their product is fucking atrocious. The UFC is worse than it's been in years and years and years and years and years. It's just so overly, not even just overly corporatized because it's always been that way, but the fights are just so boring. There's so little interesting happening in the UFC ever at any given moment right now. But you know what's interesting? People standing up and beating the shit out of each other. The UFC is so reliant on the ground game right now. Very few fighters are at the top because of their striking. And I just want there to be more explosiveness in these kind of companies because that's what the fans came for. And I think if kickboxing really wanted to become a cultural monolith in the way that MMA is now, they should have gotten up on their asses, realized, hey, we made $25 million together. Let's work together again. And continued that business model. But it's nice to see that they're working together again, kind of mending those bridges. But I feel like it's going to be a long, arduous process for these companies to eventually try to work together. And yeah, having a monopoly isn't a good thing for the fighters, but it's a good thing, like in some ways it's a good thing for the sport to have a unionized or like a centralized group of fighters. I wouldn't want to see a fight monopoly anywhere, but I would want to see at least something that makes kickboxing more relevant and culturally interesting because I think kickboxing is so fucking cool.
Yeah, and I do want to add that like the whole thing of like the Cold War between martial arts feds, it's not even a new thing. Like, go back to the 90s. Let's talk about fucking Shudo and Pancrase. And then Rings becomes a shoot fighting organization in 1999, and now you have just added on a new layer of holy fuck, we want to kill each other. Like, it was I remember reading an interview that Masakatsu Funaki did. This was after he was in the Volcon retirement match where they like revived Rings for one night to let Volk retire, and they put him in a fight against Masakatsu Funaki. Funaki never fought in Rings, or never fought in he never fought in Rings. He was a Pancrase guy, and he even talked about that. He's like, hey, you know, this is not my home. I think he says flat out, this was the enemy, but I'm happy to be here because it reminds me of my home. Because fucking now Pancrase is kind of fucked. It's kind of a not really interesting or worthwhile organization. They use like a cage now. It's really depressing. But martial arts organizations having like strong feelings for one another and like not being willing to work together or do anything, like that's not new, especially in Japan. Shudo was always kind of isolationist because Sayama hated everybody. He didn't want to work with any of his former people from UWF. Like, he did not want to work with Maeda. He did not want to work with Takada. He did not want to fucking work with the PWFG boys because he didn't hate them. He didn't really like them. He may have not even known them. He just didn't want to learn about them. So he was not really interested in Pancrase or anything. Maeda's doing his own thing. When Rings goes shoot, it becomes a whole ordeal. So all this shit had already kind of happened. Pride also had issues with other organizations. Like, there was always a level of, we cannot work together as much as we theoretically could. Because a lot of these organizations theoretically could be working together so well and they'd make a lot of money, but they don't want to because there's not really, it's not good for their business in the long run, at least in their opinion. They're much better off running their own shows and using their guys exclusively. It creates scarcity, I guess you could say. And I understand the idea of K1 and Rise kind of continuing that. I'm honestly just wondering what is killing it now when like MMA was like in their boom period when those promotions were like at each other's throats, and these K1 organizations or these kickboxing organizations are their own throats, but they're not in a boom period. They're actually in a pretty low period in terms of business, or at least from what I've heard. I could be entirely fucking wrong there. So I guess the biggest thing I'm wondering is why are they not doing good? Because it's not, I would not say it's just because they won't work together. Because we have seen promotions that have refused to work together before, and then everyone still made a shit ton of money. And you can't even say, well, one of those organizations was bankrolled by the Yakuza, because K1 exists. let's get that straight. So I'm the biggest thing that I'm wondering is if that's not it, because historically speaking, that's not been the reason for promotions to die before. What is going on with kickboxing in Japan? What is going on with K1 and Rise that is like theoretically killing the scene?
She was found not guilty.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah,
that's like the big part of the case.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's the reason that I talked about her. That's like one of the biggest cases of injustice in modern memory.
It's crazy. I'm in the references section by now. I'm looking through the citations. Jesus Christ. Wow. I don't know, John. That's a good question.
I think, like, my answer, it's probably very wrong, but my best guess would be the continued popularity of MMA, and people, like, a lot of kickboxers went into MMA.
Right.
And I don't understand why kickboxing doesn't have, like, the international appeal that MMA does, because I feel like it's not, in the US, it never really took off as much.
That's why. I think that's the reason why it does not have that thing. I'm not just meaning like it didn't take off.
And you know what?
And you know
what the reason why it didn't take off in the US, in my opinion?
Why?
Is because Andy Hug was like the Larry Bird of kickboxing, pretty much. He was the great white hope that would be the one person for Americans to truly root for. Because like even in modern UFC, you'll have the most popular international fighters will get USA chanted at them in a fight when they're fighting against an American fighter in an American arena. So like it was kind of handicapped from the start because kickboxing is so much more popular in countries like Thailand and Japan.
Yeah,
So there's like
I will
that
also add,
racist.
yeah, a few things. A few things I'll add is that, well, one important note: he would get USA chance, but Andy Hug is from Switzerland. The next thing is that
Well, he's
kickboxing was
white. That's close
actually
enough for
yeah,
Americans.
yeah, exactly. Uh, Kickboxing was popular in America for a bit, specifically the '80s. Kickboxing was like, it wasn't super popular, but there were a lot of competitions. Like kickboxing was a pretty big deal stateside for a period of time. That was around the same time as like the martial arts movie boom, I think. Like
Yeah.
70s, 80s. So these promotions, and again, this is me just kind of riffing because I'm not educated on the topic. I just know a little bit. Uh you could say there's a correlation between when that shit was picking up and everybody's like, oh, we can go watch these kickboxing events and see these guys doing it in front of our eyes. Cause like it was exciting in the 80s. They were coming out there with the long pants and like wrist tape on and they were like kicking each other in the head. It looked awesome. I every now and then I'll go and I'll watch like 80s American kickboxing stuff, especially the Hawaii stuff. Hawaii was like a booming business area for kickboxing for some reason. It's
Yeah.
really awesome. But when you get into the 90s, I think that UFC immediately kind of took away the shine because it was the new shit and people were like, "Oh, let's check out this UFC thing." And then as far as I know, there was never answer to the UFC from American kickboxing. There was never any American kickboxing organization that could stand as like, you know, UFC is not a martial art. It's MMA. It's just UFC is like the big titan. American kickboxing never had a big titan. The reason that I think Japanese MMA has more of a wide reach is because UFC exists. Because UFC is letting people even know that MMA exists and MMA can be like this high level sport with tons of fans and tons of money. Because they're aware of that, they can then go deeper and they find the JMMA, and there's a wider, there's a wider audience because of that. That does not exist for kickboxing because there is
I
no
think
UFC equivalent.
I think also for Japanese fans in MMA, it's easier to get into because of Pride and the history. Like, I feel like Pride is something that parents will tell their kids about.
Yeah.
That's a
And
crazy
like,
thing to say. Kind of.
but also I think bad culture in the US, like people get over things very quickly and like aren't interested in them anymore, kind of contributed to that with the rise of MMA and like athletic bodies sanctioning events like these way more. All that combined just I feel like kind of killed kickboxing. But
Yeah.
you know what brought it back to life? The match 2022, baby.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah,
about it.
yes,
We're talking
sir.
about it.
Yeah,
It's been
let's
an hour.
go.
We're talking about it. It's been
Let's
30 minutes.
go.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, finally. Yes. The
Yeah.
match 2022. Not to be confused with the match 2022.
Yeah, the other match 2022 involves Tom Brady playing golf. And I don't think any of the Scramble Bunkhouse Deathcast listeners want to hear about that, unless Cam listens to our podcast.
Hey,
Cam Rodricks.
respect Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Yeah, the match in 2022, June 1st of 2022 as well.
Oh my god, same month. That's fucked. They were trying
Exact
to
same
compete.
month, the match 2022 on opposite ends of the earth.
Dude.
There's
Yeah.
also
Yeah,
a movie called Match 2022
Oh.
from director Sean McGinley, so don't be confused with that either.
yes. Look, if you want to look up this fight specifically on YouTube, look up the match 2022 kickboxing. It was posted by Rizin, Rizin, and you can tell which one it is because it has about 6 million views.
Whoa. Wait, I just realized it was posted by Ryzen.
Yeah.
What? How? I guess
I
maybe
don't fucking
Ryzen.
know.
Ryzen might have gotten what's the word? Kind of a third party situation.
Oh no
Like
no no no
we
no
can't we
no no
can't
no
let
no no!
K1
I know
or Rise upload it.
I know. Yes. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
Because they had to hold
that's
it
what I'm
on
saying.
like
Third
a
party,
on
because
a
fucking yeah,
not they specifically said that they had to host it on like independent grounds from their individual organizations because they
yeah,
thought there would be some fuckery from the orgs.
yeah. It's like a Switzerland, like they got a fucking
Neutral party.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
exactly.
being tried at The
Neutral
Hague.
party, not third party. Yeah, it's a Hague match. Like they have to put it on the Ryzen channel because neither the K1 channel nor the Rise channel is allowed to get the views. They're not allowed to get the ad revenue for this match.
The Ryzen channel splits the ad revenue between the two of them, like East Germany and West Germany.
Yeah, they
So
certainly
none of them
do.
audit the wrong amount of view money.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the real split is that each Ryzen gets 80%, and then K1 gets 10%, Rise gets 10%.
As intended, as it should be,
As
as a matter of
intended. But
fact.
yes, this whole fight is on YouTube, which I did not know about until like now, until we were like watching it. Because I don't know, I just assumed I'd have to fucking find it somewhere on like Russian Facebook or something. But no,
Nope.
this is full on YouTube, no entrances, but just full fight. And yeah, it's a crazy ass fight. Uh, I'm gonna let Ethan once again lead this off because I feel like he came into this with the full headspace of working. Like he didn't even tell us about this until like he told me last night. He told Cake 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Ethan has had
I
the
was
time to
very last
prepare.
minute discovery.
So Ethan,
But Ethan, Ethan,
you were the
here's a big question for you, Ethan, actually, before you take the lead. Aside from us getting into true crime, why'd you choose this?
Well, aside from us getting into true crime, which is obviously the main reason that I chose this, I have wanted to talk about MMA through like, but pretend we're talking about it as wrestling for a while. And I thought that would be a very funny idea for the podcast. And then I was watching a Napoleon Blown Apart video while I was trying to go to sleep, and he mentioned something about the match 2022. I had that like written down in my brain when I went to sleep. I woke up the next day, I did whatever I had to do, and I was still thinking about, what is the match 2022? Because that's a very particular, specific name. So I looked it up, I watched it. I thought it was really cool because I thought there was like, as we mentioned at the very beginning of or near the beginning of this podcast, I think there's like a very clear face heel dynamic in this fight, which I think you don't really get to see in a lot of MMA or a lot of kickboxing. And I just thought it was really cool, and the hype around it was so unbelievable that I thought I had to share it with you guys because it's a spectacle. We get to talk about something we don't usually get to talk about, but it still is violent and entertaining and kind of in the sphere of wrestling enough for us to talk about.
right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
There we go.
Well, I think I was the first person to actually make a reference to wrestling when we were watching it. We
Yes.
were all tapped in. We first opened by watching highlight videos of both guys, as one
Hmm.
naturally does.
To get a
Um,
feel for them, to see what they're
yeah.
about.
So the first like 30 minutes of us preparing for this podcast was just us going pod crazy over knockouts for like maybe like half an hour. It's like,
Well,
wow,
not
that was
not fully
awesome.
for a half an hour. We did that for about like 20 minutes, and then we played game pigeon games for a while.
It's true.
You're exposing us as unprofessional.
Yeah, not like we don't have cut pong as the background right now or anything.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So first 25 minutes was us going pod crazy over the knockouts and then playing cut pong, and then we decided to watch the match 2022. So needless to say, the anticipation was high for this one. Everyone was ready to go, and I think the main thing that I took away from it, which again, like I said, there was a very clear face heel dynamic, but obviously not in the wrestling sense because it's not wrestling. This is real, but it happens accidentally because it starts out as just a genuine sparring competition. Like both guys are hyped. They're locked in. They've never been more locked in their lives. They both look like androids programmed to kill the other guy and no other directive. As soon as the match ends, they'll be shut off and turned into scrap, and they don't care because they just want to do this and then die. Um, and then by fate, during I think it's like a cinch attempt, or I don't know, it's like just like a I don't know what attempt it
Yeah,
was,
they were
but they
trying
were
to
getting
clinch.
close. Yeah, it was like
Takeru
a
was
clinch attempt.
grabbing. He like grabbed him really forcefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, he grabbed him, and he kind of like slips his way a bit too close and headbutts, essentially his eye, very ugly style, and he immediately has to like take like a multi-minute long breather. Like there is a very real chance that the fight will just get thrown out right then and there so early on into the fight's existence. And that is when it goes from being a hype but still reasonable fight to both guys kind of just dogging on each other for the rest of it.
Yeah, like there's a change in the air the second that, like, not even after. So I wouldn't even say the headbutt is the change in the air, because the headbutt happens and tension immediately backs up. Takeru also immediately backs up, and I again headbutt, big deal. That's not allowed. You could say, oh, that's him breaking the rules. Shit just happens. Like it's not an uncommon thing for fights to take breaks because a guy accidentally gets hit where he shouldn't have gotten
Exactly.
hit or something like that. Like accidental low blows are a big issue, which is why I know with a lot of fighting organizations, it's like they don't even like immediate, like, in wrestling. In wrestling, you get hit with a low blow, it's an immediate end. I know in a lot of organizations, if you're able to keep fighting, even with that low blow, they usually will let you because it's such a problem. They don't like it could just end all fights. Like,
Yeah, it's not like this is like where Takeru goes evil mode, but it's just
no,
like
yeah,
it's when it
Takeru
starts.
throws it, but they back up.
Yeah, the first
They
one
kind
is
of calm
clearly
down.
an accident.
Yeah, so they calm down, and then the fight starts up again, and I don't know what happens that like changes it. I think it's the headbutt happens, and
I think what changes it is that like they keep going for cinch attempts, and every time they go for cinch attempts, Takeru's arm is just coincidentally
it
right
yes,
next to where he
Yeah.
okay.
headbutted them.
I was gonna say that the thing that happens is they get back up. Takeru continues to be pretty aggressive. They cinch again, and then Takeru grinds his arm across Tension's
He
face.
he, he
Also,
forearm
That's
like
the turning point.
chainsaws him.
Yeah, that's
I
the
must
turning point
say,
for me.
I don't think we harped on this for long enough. The fucking eye injury is horrendous.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
You see him trying to open both of his eyes at the same time, and one of them will not cooperate.
There's a
Nasukawa's, I
point
think it's his right eye, it just like
Yes.
refuses to cooperate.
Yeah,
There's a
like
point in it too. Like I don't like it's during when he's getting checked and like they're doing like the how many fingers am I holding up thing. I don't know what happens. Like some like little flick of
Yeah,
spittle
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, like some minor thing that you can't even see on camera taps that wound, and he immediately has to recoil from the doctor to like readjust himself.
yeah.
You can't even see what it was. Like the gust hit his eye. But he had to look away and like totally refocus himself.
It was like a
So
pure
You can
base
see in like
instinct.
you can see in real time as his like swelling is getting worse too, because he gets to the corner and it's not that bad at first. Like I honestly thought he like hurt his nose because like it just
Yeah,
looked like
you said you
like his
thought he
eye.
jammed his nose.
I thought he jammed his nose because his eye was not swelling yet. Like it was starting, but it wasn't visible enough yet. And you watch in real time as his eye gets smaller and smaller because it is closing up from all the swelling, and it's horrendous. And then he just turns around and he's like, all right, I'm good. And he gets back in the fight with a swollen up eye.
and he's just ready to go after that. He's like, all right, that's it.
Yeah,
Let's
and
go.
I think another thing we have not mentioned because we kind of skipped over the first round, because that headbutt happens in the second round. The
Yes.
first round, again, if we want to talk about this as wrestling, the first round sets up this headbutt amazingly in terms of like story wise, because Takeru gets eaten alive. That first
He gets
round
fucking
is
dropped really
decisively
hard.
it's decisively Tension's fight, not only because of the counter punch that happens like right near the end of the round that drops him, and that's like the one drop of the whole fight, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Like even before that, Takeru is landing very few strikes cleanly. Tension is tending to dodge most of them or block the rest. Meanwhile, Tension is peppering him with like extremely hard punches that are so fast that Takeru does not know how to block it. He's not able to dodge it because he can't dodge something that fast. He's just eating strikes over and over. It looks like Tension might have a slight reach advantage too, because he's able to pop him when Takeru is not able to return fire. So this like whole first round is kind of like a deconstruction of Takeru, Like Takeru's this high level K1 fighter. He's a monster, and then he goes against Tenshin, and it's almost like a reality check for Takeru that he's actually not on Tenshin's level in this situation.
Yeah, and then
Like
it
not
ends
yeah.
too. It ends like with the knockdown of him just standing in the corner, like the end of the what's the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, Tenshin gets in the corner and does the ibuprofen stare for the entire end of the round while Takeru's struggling to get up. Like, it is. And I'm not saying that like Takeru's a bad fighter. Fucking, he's like the number 2 fighter in the world or the number 3 fighter in the world. Like, he's a monster fighter. But maybe it was just bad luck. It really seems like Tenshin is the fighter that cancels out all of Takeru's advantages. Because Takeru against any other guy is the monster. He is the force to beat. He is the force of nature that you can't fight back from. Tenshin is dogging him like relentlessly in that first round. And
There's a difference in the way that they strike that's really interesting to me that I noted during their highlight tapes. It's that Takeru, he is a slightly slower fighter where you can actually see the punches he does, but it feels like his opponents are going in slow motion even though he's still slower. It feels like they're reacting to everything a little bit too late, like he knows exactly where they're going to be.
yeah,
But he's also like a bum rusher. He will flurry you until he finds that perfect advantage and then use it to the best of his abilities. But Tenshin, he is just an unbelievable. Tenshin Nasukawa is like, I couldn't even see half of the knockouts that he did in the
yeah,
highlight reel. Like I said like at the very beginning after the second one that we would probably have to put it on 0.75 times speed to actually see what was going on. And that stayed true throughout the whole like knockout reel. He is just a faster striker than anybody I've ever seen, and it's even more impressive because he's been fighting since he was like fucking 12. He
yeah,
has
Mm-hmm.
almost 200 fights under his belt if you combine boxing, MMA, and his amateur and pro careers in kickboxing.
yeah,
He, for somebody with that much experience who's taken that much damage to his head to still be that snappy and know exactly where to punch is unbelievable. And uh, to Takeru's credit, he was getting the dog shit beaten out of him. But if most other kickboxers in the world got the dog shit beaten out of him in that way, they would have been out cold.
yeah. They
So
wouldn't have gotten that
Takeru,
from the counterpunch.
no. So Takeru is like a special breed for even being able to get up from that counterpunch. But the shit he does in the second round, even though he's being an absolute dickhead, I love that guy because at some point in the second round, he just puts his hands down and starts smiling and just says, "Come on, let's go at it." And then they just start wailing on each other with only small breaks to clinch, and Takara will just try to rake at the eye in whatever means that he possibly can to make it look like it's an accident. Fucking Draymond Green style. It's ridiculous. This
Yeah,
is probably one of the most, I don't know, it's just such a desperate performance that I didn't think you could get in MMA in that way, where it's like a desperate, almost cheating performance.
yeah. And I think
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not like he does it the whole time. Obviously, it's not real
No, no,
wrestling. Like it's just whenever he gets the opportunity, he's like, yeah, I might as well.
yeah,
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's fighting for real the whole time. He's like, oh well, it's right here, and he just does it anyway.
yeah, yeah.
does that
This
make him
yeah.
the ultimate opportunist edge style?
I'm gonna kick you from the server and with my boot in real life. Uh, I do also want to note like Tension does not. He's not just sitting there letting like taking it. There's this one horrifying moment where the ref tries to get between them to break it up, and of course Takeru was doing his raking the arm across the face thing. His arm goes away. The second his face is open, Tension cocks one back and swings at him while the ref is like standing between them trying to
Mhm.
stop it. Like
I think another really funny thing
he's
too was I think
pissed.
it was I don't know if it was the first or second time he does the arm rake, but after one of those attempts, he tries to go for a punch and then just trips, and
Yeah,
that's so funny.
yeah,
Like it's insane
yeah,
that he just did it. Like he does
He,
some
he
scumbag
slips.
thing, tries to fight for real, and then just falls. Like that's
yeah,
so funny.
yeah,
That the Ryzen ring giving him the karmic justice he deserves.
yeah. I will also say that like, and this is not an accurate representation of the fight because it's going to make one guy sound like he's not like trying. this feels like a hard work versus natural ability kind of fight because Takeru looks like he's a guy that has spent his entire life like getting better at kickboxing, like trying hard to improve. He's a guy that has built himself up to be this like Iron Man, to be able to take those shots from tension, to be able to lower his guard and go fucking full on Mark Hunt mode, like just eating shots with no guard and like smiling at him. Like he has built himself up to be able to do this. He has built himself up to be able to strike with the best of them, throwing normal, like not normal, like not even normal speed, like high speed punches as hard as he can to knock these fuckers out. He has worked his ass off day in and day out to become the best fighter he can, and he is the best fighter in his organization because of it. Tenshin Nasukawa is not a normal human. That is the difference between the two of them. Is that
Use a
like
comparison. Is it?
yeah, yeah,
It
Takeru
feels
looks like Takeru looks like a great fighter. Like Tenshin though looks like he was bioengineered to kickbox.
to use a good comparison. It feels like Smile versus Sakuma from ping pong. Actually,
Yes.
I think
Yes. Yes.
it's exactly like that. Like I was gonna say Sakuma versus Peko, but he actually kicks his ass. So it's actually Sakuma versus Smile, definitely. But it's just that feeling. Like he's worked so hard. He's clearly done so much, but he just doesn't have a knack for it. Which is a funny thing to say, given that he's the number 3 in the world, or maybe the number 2.
Yeah.
He's the number 2 or number 3 in the world. And so saying that he still got pwned hard enough that you can make this obviously wrong statement
Yeah.
is crazy.
And it's entirely because of the punch speed. I will say it's not only just because of the punch speed, but one of the big things is the punch speed. Takeru is throwing punches that I see those punches, I go, okay, reasonably, with enough training, with enough hard work and dedication, with enough years under my belt, I could punch at the same speed as Takeru. I don't know if I'd be able to punch as hard, but I could punch pretty damn hard, and I'd be able to punch at the same speed. It is impossible.
You see, I was going to go
It's impossible for another human to punch as hard as Tenshin Nasukawa. There's only one person who can punch that fast and that hard, and it is Tenshin Nasukawa. And there will only be one person that can do that, and it will be Tenshin Nasukawa.
You see, I was thinking of you were going the opposite direction with that, but I would agree either way. Like if I trained for long enough, I feel like I could block one of Takeru's punches. I could never train hard enough or long enough to block a Nasukawa punch.
No, yeah, you wouldn't be able to raise the guard up in time.
No, my physical reaction speed. Most human physical reaction speeds are not quick enough. Their neurons don't fire fast enough from their brains to their muscles to block that shit.
Yeah, and that's honestly part of the reason why I think that like Takeru gave up on blocking in the third round. Like I think
the third round you think of a showman in the third round. The third round he just like tried to get the fans hype.
Yeah, he's smiling, he's shaking his head no after every punch because he's like, no, you're not knocking me out yet, bitch. Like he gives up on trying to fight this fight like a normal kickboxing match because he knows in a normal kickboxing fight he cannot beat Tenshin Nasukawa. It's the writing on the wall. The Tenshin Nasukawa is such a quick hitter that nobody can touch him. So he gives up on trying to do that and decides, okay, I'm gonna power up from all your punches, and I'm gonna throw a really horrifying knee right to the gut, and then 1-2 combo punch you. That is like the one time of the fight when I really thought Tenshin might lose was when he took the 2 punches, smiled at Tenshin, and then immediately threw like the hardest knee of the whole fight and just flurried him. And the Tenshin walked it off. And I was like, oh, okay, writing on the wall.
It is.
Yeah, I don't
so yeah, it's actually almost saddening in a way.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that much of like a clear wash, admittedly, when you're watching it. Also the underlying theme of that, like, if it were to go to decision, you'd know. Like if they had time to go the distance, you would know what would happen, but only if they go the distance, because at any given point it could change in the actual fight.
Right.
But it's that kind of feeling that you get watching a fight where it's like, well, if one guy doesn't get knocked out, the other guy's taking it.
Yeah.
It's that feeling. I don't think it was like hopeless for Takeru at any point, but as soon as the third round ended, then it truly was. Then it was absolutely hopeless.
Yeah.
It was fighting against fate the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I would
Or the
honestly
whole
say
second round.
until the second half of the third round, I did think it was hopeless. Like watching that first half of the third round, it's like, okay, he's lost the first round for sure. He's lost the second round. Not only has he lost the second round, Takeru was obviously more groggy than Tension. Like he's throwing slower punches. He's not even trying to guard anymore. And Tension is still able to mostly dodge and guard all of Takeru's punches. Although I will say, the couple big advantages Takeru gets in that second half of the third round is when he drops the guard. And Tension is seemingly so taken aback that he is not able to he himself is not able to return like guarding because he's like, fuck, this guy's like taking my punches. And then Takeru immediately rattles back and he does not have time to respond because he's like so concentrated on Takeru turning into fucking Mark Hunt Jr. Like it's scary and fucking Tension is mentally shaken and physically rocked. So where that last brawl in the end of the third round, it looked even. It was like the one time the whole fight that really looked even. So I don't know what would have happened in a fourth or fifth round. Theoretically, Takeru might have like just willed his way into winning, but we never got.
Here's a
They weren't on
question.
champion rounds. So
Here's a question that I wanted to ask actually. This might not be true, so I want to ask the experts about it. But I did read somewhere that Takeru has never gone above 3 rounds.
oh shit,
I don't know if that's true or not, but I read that he has actually never actually gone into championship rounds, quote unquote, because traditionally 3 rounds is the norm in Japan, no matter what you do, even if you are a champion. So rounds beyond that are like special occasion things. I don't know if that's true.
okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
I
will. I
think
will say checking Tension. Tension has gone more than 3 rounds, but checking Takeru, I'm looking. I might be okay. After this fight, he has, but before this fight, no. No,
He
oh,
never he
once.
never went more
Once.
than that.
One time in 2008, he lost by decision. Wait, this was fucking. Was this? This was kickboxing. Yeah, kickboxing. It might have been Muay Thai. It might have been Muay Thai considering they were in Thailand, and it was a 5 round match. It might have been a Muay Thai fight, but he has at least once gone more than 3 rounds. But that is the only time in his whole career, and that was 14 years before this fight.
Yeah, so needless to say, if it did go to championship rounds, I don't know what would have happened, honestly.
Yeah,
Gary would have been in like unknown territory actually for like very clearly. I don't
yeah.
know. It's
I mean,
interesting to think about.
Tension would be kind of close because Tension has gone a few times over 3 rounds, but okay, he's gone a solid amount over 3 rounds, but for the most part, he has gone the same. Like he's also mostly just gone to the third round at most. Um, so no, there could genuinely be an advantage of like Tension does have more experience going longer, even if it's not a ton more experience, it's a notable amount more. Um, so yeah, who's to say that Takeru would have even been able to last because he's not a 5 round fighter.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually kind of crazy because I know we like when we were watching it, we were all like, "Man, if it went the distance, then I don't know what would have happened." But now I really don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess it goes down to again still the same what if question. If they did have the championship rounds, what would have happened? But like, if you're a fighter who's lived a life of threes, then I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. Very
Ethan,
curious. I
What
didn't
you
know
gotta
that they
say?
only did that. What?
Oh, oh,
Huh?
I was checking in on Ethan. I want to see what he's thinking.
Oh, he's playing cup pong.
Oh yeah, of course he is.
I was playing
You're
cup
saying,
pong,
Jake?
but I'm also thinking about just how I don't know. I think kickboxing being 3 rounds, not only just 3 rounds, but 3 rounds, 3 minutes, creates those interesting dynamics, like the one that Takeru brought to the last round, where he's just hands down, fully going at it. But I don't. It didn't really seem like he was gassed, but that could be my lack of knowledge of kickboxing and knowing what gassed looks like in kickboxing as opposed to MMA or wrestling. But both of those guys looked like they could at least go another round or two. And I would have really, really loved to see that, but the people paid for a 3-round fight, and the promotion promised only a 3-round fight. So it deeply disappoints me that we didn't get more. But the stuff that we did get, I thought was like
The
it
ruling was
showed
really
who
good.
was. It was great. I think it also showed who the better fighter was. Sorry, my
Yeah, I mean,
Siri just fucking popped up. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, we're good. We go.
yeah, you're right. You're all right. You're all right.
Oh, good, thank God. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's just like
Yeah.
it really heavily showed for those 3 rounds. It showed who was the better, more prepared fighter in the moment, and I feel like it kind of, it couldn't have been Takeru on some way, but that's only because Tenshin Nasukawa, ever since he had started his professional career, this was his ultimate goal. He wanted this more than he wanted pretty much anything in his career. And to have this moment in the same building that Andy Hug made his fame, Nasukawa's idol, he was like, to know that it was in that arena a full year beforehand, I feel like lit a fire in Nasukawa that was, he's already the most like gifted fighter in the world. But to have that much inspiration and to have that much of a torch lit under your ass, I feel like that would, change things and put him in a completely different mindset. And I think it's really interesting how he like just the way that he fought was so fucking cool in that fight.
Mhm. I agree. I do agree. It was very interesting. I think it's really interesting that apparently we never used like hidden body location until the Casey Anthony trial. Did you guys know about this? I was reading in from Jacksonville.com. Apparently we never actually used like cadaver sniffing dogs to find human remains until Casey Anthony. That was not a
Fascinating.
thing that we did prior to that. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's nuts. You would think that we would have jumped on that sooner, right? Like if we had animals that could like locate such an important thing as a human body, I think we would have used those dogs sooner.
Yeah. Uh.
Do you know how long we've been using drug sniffing dogs?
Oh, fucking since
Um,
the Reagan era, probably.
That's crazy that we've been using dogs to sniff out drugs and not cadavers for so many years, you know?
yeah, yeah, they do lead to one another. But this dog could find cocaine. It could probably find a human body, which is probably good actually. Yeah, if a dog could find coke, they could probably find a human. Yeah, that's probably
I
it.
feel like
Not
a
that, not
human
that much of
body
a leap.
stinks way more than a cocaine bag, you know?
It does.
And it's
It
like
really
there's a way
does.
less chance of the dog getting addicted to whatever substance you're trying to get it to smell.
Yeah.
Wait, do they actually get addicted? Like, do they actually like get addicted to like cocaine? They
I
can
don't
chew
know,
the
but
stuff out.
I feel like there's like a chance that a dog would get addicted to cocaine if they were smelling it long
That
enough. That
can't
could
be
also
true.
be me just like remembering the Family Guy episode where Brian became a coke dog and then got addicted
I
to
think that's
cocaine.
exactly what's happening because there's no
I think it
way
is.
it can't be. If that was true, cats would be addicted to catnip, right? Because they engage in that stuff all the time. There would be a part of their brain that's like, man, I need this now, or I won't be able to function.
Maybe
Like
animals don't have the
if there
addictive
was,
gene that we do.
Well,
Well,
okay.
maybe they do. No, they do.
But
They do.
no, let's pause because I just looked it up. Can animals become addicted to drugs? This does not say specifically dogs, but animals have the capacity to become addicted to drugs. Uh,
Really?
yes. Fucking, of course. Okay. I know it's like mostly an urban legend, but it is true that it like I believe there is truth to the story Cocaine Bear. Like it's very dramatized, but there
see,
was
I
in
feel like
fact a bear
that's
that
not a
did a
fair
bunch of
comparison.
cocaine.
That's not a fair comparison
Why
though, because it did a
the
bunch of cocaine and then immediately died. It didn't get addicted to cocaine. It did cocaine
it
and then
kept doing
passed
the
away.
cocaine because it was addicted.
That's not. It doesn't work that quickly.
No,
It's
I
not
feel
like
I was
it's
like
gonna be like,
I was
if a
doing the
bear
cocaine
started
then.
eating something and then it just like, I feel like if it was that much cocaine and a bear had started eating it by at some point, it would realize like whether or not it liked it and wanted to keep eating it at that point. So I feel like it's not an addiction, but the bear was like, "Ooh, I like this feeling."
Yeah, I don't know. Hold on, I'm gonna look up cocaine bear parentheses bear on Wikipedia real quickly because I need to see what's going. Okay, hold on. I'm reading it on Wikipedia. This happened in
Okay.
1985.
Uh,
Okay, okay, 1985. True, true. Does it say how long it took the bear to eat the cocaine?
I will also
It
say,
says that the stomach
just
says stomach
notably,
was literally packed with brim.
this is something we said before. Drug sniffer dogs have been used since the 1800s. So 1800s
Interesting.
is when the drug sniffing dogs became a thing. It wasn't until the mid 2000s or the mid O's that body sniffing dogs became a thing. So something to
Interesting.
consider.
Then you mean then like in like the 3000s we're gonna get a new form of dog sniffing. That's
Yeah.
crazy to
But
think about.
what are they gonna sniff for?
I don't know, but we don't. I don't know. I doubt people in the 1800s thought that they could sniff out bodies. So whatever they could sniff out in the future, it could be like stardust or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Something we're not
something
even
that we
like
don't
thinking
even
about.
like can't even comprehend
Yeah, we
at this
don't
point.
Yeah,
have the
but
thing they'll be sniffing yet.
Yes.
yeah, but like in the 3000s, watch out. Okay, that's
30
gonna
hun-
just gonna change the world.
3000.
Yeah.
Also, uh, the dogs do not get addicted to the drugs that they're sniffing out at all. They associate the drugs that they're sniffing out with their favorite toy. So
Oh,
they smell the enclosed packages, and if they smell
That's
something close enough to the drug, they get their favorite toy.
Wikipedia for Cocaine Bear is kind of limited, sadly, but it does say that the stomach was packed to the brim with cocaine. However, only 3 to 4 grams were actually in the bloodstream at the time of death.
I see.
So this would lead me to believe they ate all the cocaine and then died before the cocaine could be digested. So I don't think it was addiction that killed the cocaine bear.
Tragic.
I think that's just a little bit of movie magic,
Yeah.
a
You
little bit
never
of
believe those
dramatization.
movies. You never believe those movies. They're always lying to you.
Yeah. I think the animals could get addicted though. I just think it would take a lot more effort. Like I
Yeah.
think it would take a couple trial runs.
I
And I
mean,
don't think
okay. I will say, I did then find later information when I was researching that animals do get like pets do get addicted to drugs. Like there are apparently like
Yeah,
dogs that have been in like meth houses and they get addicted to meth from like the fumes and shit, like getting in the air from people using meth within their vicinity. Um, like cats have gotten addicted to meth. So there is apparently an actual possibility for animals to get addicted to narcotics just from being within the range of the high and getting fumes that have come off of it.
interesting. This does change a lot then.
Yeah. So theoretically, a dog could develop a cocaine addiction.
Well, I think we all knew that. It was more so the specifics of it. Scramcast Nation, if you think a dog could get addicted to cocaine, leave your answers on Twitter, leave your answers in the comments. That'll be the topic of the next episode. We're gonna spend the next week giving our animals cocaine. We'll be back with the results,
Yeah.
and we'll see how many of you guys are right, how many of you guys are wrong.
Well, I'm gonna be the outlier. I'm giving my dog meth, so like we're gonna have to. But like it's more of an
No, that's
analysis
not.
to.
No. There's only three of us. One of us has to be a control group.
Okay, well,
Like
I'm gonna control him with meth.
that's not how science works, dude.
Okay, listen, I can
Oh,
I can give you a rundown of what my dog's been doing from the week before I gave it meth.
yeah, but like we're testing cocaine though. I feel like you're not taking the true crime aspect of this seriously.
I'm taking it seriously. I just think there's a different way to approach it.
John, if you
I
don't take
just
this true crime shit seriously, I'm gonna create a true crime in your house.
yeah, dude.
Now, what do you
Like
mean by that?
we're
You're gonna be
serious
the
about
next
this.
episode. You're gonna be the topic.
you're gonna walk into my house and commit a little round of tax fraud or something. Walk into my house and steal a vase that's worth $50.01. You're gonna
Um,
walk into my house and paint over one of my walls, create a disturbance.
you'd be lucky that's all that happened, dude.
Yeah.
You would
John,
be
I'm gonna walk
so
into your
lucky.
house. I'm gonna paint a tunnel on your wall. You're gonna imagine the tunnel is a tunnel leading out of your house. You're gonna run into it and you're gonna smack right against the wall.
Mhm.
Brother,
Exactly
I'm
right. And
I'm going to take you to the Acme Court of Law. That's not happening, brother. Like, that's not,
Dude,
yeah,
I'm
right, dude.
dropping an anvil on your head.
Uh,
I'm
did you
making you
hear the
walk under a
news, John?
piano.
dude. You're
You
gonna
gotta hear
walk
the
maybe
news,
piano,
buddy.
and then I'm gonna have the
Acme's not a
piano
thing
case.
anymore. You idiot. You can't take him to Acme Court. That got cut out for budgeting purposes, you dumbass.
Yeah, you remember?
Yeah, it's not a thing anymore. Remember when the last time somebody tried to sue Acme and they got deleted from history forever? You think you're gonna be the one? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Wile E. Coyote
Mm-mm.
couldn't do it. You ain't doing it either. It's that simple. It is that simple. And if you disagree with me, guess what? I'm gonna make you run off a cliff, but you're not gonna notice until you look down.
Dude. What?
That's a
What?
shoot.
What is with this aggression?
John, I think you
I,
should call your local lawmakers. You should call the federal authorities, see if Superdragon can do something about this to get me to jail. But I will not comply. I'll not even comply with our president.
This is so now it's premeditated. Now you're saying that you're not even saying that it might happen. You're saying that it will happen. You're premeditating live on the podcast. This episode will come out before you commit the crime. Like you're posting your own confession.
just
Hey,
because it's true crime doesn't mean it's good crime.
yeah.
That'd be
Just
an awesome podcast, true crime podcast about really dumb and stupid and bad crimes.
well, the good news for you, John, is that's the direction that the Scramcast is heading.
And I'll be the first subject.
Yippee! Yahoo! Yippee! Now the first subject is going to be Casey Anthony, though, for real.
Okay.